Slot 1 refers to the physical and electrical specification for the connector used by some of Intel's microprocessors, including the Pentium Pro, Celeron, Pentium II and the Pentium III. Both single and dual processor configurations were implemented. General: with the introduction of the Pentium II CPU, the need for greater access for testing had made the transition from socket to slot necessary. Previously with the Pentium Pro, Intel had combined processor and cache dies in the same socket 8 package. These were connected by a full-speed bus, resulting in significant performance benefits. Unfortunately, this method required that the two components be bonded together early in the production process, before testing was possible. As a result, a single, tiny flaw in either die made it necessary to discard the entire assembly, causing low production yield and high cost. Intel subsequently designed a circuit board where the CPU and cache remained closely integrated, but were mounted on a printed circuit board, called a single-edged contact cartridge. The CPU and cache could be tested separately, before final assembly into a package, reducing cost and making the CPU more attractive to markets other than that of high-end servers. These cards could also be easily plugged into a slot 1, thereby eliminating the chance for pins of a typical CPU to be bent or broken when installing in a socket. The form factor used for slot 1 was a 5-inch long, 242 contact edge connector named SC242. To prevent the cartridge from being inserted the wrong way, the slot was keyed to allow installation in only one direction. The SC242 was later used for AMD's slot A as well, and while the two slots were identical mechanically, they were electrically incompatible. To discourage slot A users from trying to install a slot 1 CPU, the connector was rotated 180 degrees on slot A motherboards. With the new slot 1, Intel added support for symmetric multiprocessing. A maximum of 2 Pentium II or Pentium III CPUs can be used in a dual-slot motherboard. The Celeron does not have official SMP support. There are also converter cards, known as slot-kets, which hold a socket 8 so that a Pentium Pro CPU can be used with slot 1 motherboards. These specific converters, however, are rare. Another kind of slot kit allows using a socket 370 CPU in a slot 1. Many of these latter devices are equipped with own voltage regulator modules, in order to supply the new CPU with a lower core voltage, which the motherboard would not otherwise allow. Form factors. The single-edge contact cartridge, or SECC, was used at the beginning of the slot 1 era for Pentium II CPUs. Inside the cartridge, the CPU itself is enclosed in a hybrid plastic and metal case. The back of the housing is plastic and has several markings on it, the name, Pentium II, the Intel logo, a hologram, and the model number. The front consists of a black anodized aluminum plate, which is used to hold the CPU cooler. The SECC form is very solid, because the CPU itself is resting safely inside the case. As compared to socket-based CPUs, there are no pins that can be bent, and the CPU is less likely to be damaged by improper installation of a cooler. Following SECC, the set form appeared on the market. It was designed for lower-priced Celeron CPUs. This form lacks a case entirely, consisting solely of the printed circuit board holding the components. The Pentium III processors also use a protective case, renamed SECC2. The only item to be carried forward from the old SECC form is the backplate. The CPU lies free and, as with Celerons, the heat sink lies directly on the core for a better heat transfer. Historically, there are 3 platforms for the Intel P6 CPUs, Socket 8, Slot 1 and Socket 370. Slot 1 is a successor to Socket 8. While the Socket 8 CPUs directly had the L2 cache embedded into the CPU, it is located on a circuit board shared with the core itself. The exception is later Slot 1 CPUs with a Copperman core which have the L2 cache embedded into the die. In the beginning of 2000, while the Pentium II CPUs with FCPGA housing appeared, Slot 1 was slowly succeeded by Socket 370. after Intel had already offered socket 370 and slot 1 at the same time since the beginning of 1999. Socket 370 was initially made for the low-cost Celeron processors, while slot 1 was thought of as a platform for the expensive Pentium II and early Pentium III models. Cache and core were both embedded into the die. Slot 1 also obsoleted the old socket 7, at least regarding Intel, as the standard platform for the home user. After abandoning the Intel P5 Pentium MMX CPU, Intel completely left the socket 7 market to the manufacturers AMD, Cyrix and IDT. Chipsets and officially supported CPUs. Intel 440FX introduced in May 6, 1996, FSB, 66 MHz, PIOWDMA, supported RAM type, EDO DRAM, supported CPUs, Pentium Pro, Pentium II with 66 MHz FSB, Celeron. Used in both socket 8 and slot 1, does not support AGP or SDRAM, allowed up to 2 CPUs for SMP. Intel 440 Luces introduced in August 27, 1997, FSB, 66 MHz, supported RAM type, EDO DRAM, SDRAM, supported CPUs, Pentium II, Celeron, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, Pentium II with 66 MHz FSB, Celeron. Introduced support for AGP and SDRAM, allowed up to 2 CPUs for SMP. Intel 440X introduced in April 1998, FSB, 66 MHz, supported RAM type, EDO DRAM, SDRAM, supported CPUs, Pentium II, Celeron, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, Pentium II with 66 MHz FSB, Celeron. Same specifications as 440 Luces, but memory support limited to 256 MB and no SMP support. Intel 440BX introduced in April 1998, FSB, 66 and 100 MHz, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, supported RAM types, SDRAM up to 4 DIMMs of 256 MB, supported CPUs, Pentium II with 66 and 100 MHz FSB, Pentium III with 100 MHz FSB, Celeron. Allowed up to 2 CPUs for SMP. Intel 440ZX introduced in November 1998, FSB, 66 and 100 MHz, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, supported RAM types, SDRAM, supported CPUs, Pentium II with 66 and 100 MHz FSB, Pentium III with 100 MHz FSB, Celeron. Intel 820/820E introduced in November 1999, FSB, 66 100 and 133 MHz, AGP4A, mode, UDMA/66, UDMA/100, supported RAM types, DRAM, SDRAM, supported CPUs, all slot 1 CPUs, allowed up to 2 CPUs for SMP. Via Apollo Pro/Pro Plus introduced in May 1998, FSB, 66, 100 MHz, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, UDMA/66, supported CPUs, Pentium Pro with 66 MHz FSB, Pentium II with 66 and 100 MHz FSB, Pentium III with 100 MHz FSB, Celeron. Via Apollo Pro 133 introduced in July 1999, FSB, 66 100 and 133 MHz, AGP2A, mode, UDMA/33, UDMA/66, UDMA/100, supported CPUs, all slot 1 CPUs. Via Apollo Pro 133 Aries introduced in October 1999, FSB, 66 100 and 133 MHz, AGP4A, mode, UDMA/66, UDMA/100, supported CPUs, all Slot 1 CPUs, allowed up to 2 CPUs for SMP. Pentium III-B and EB models, a special series of Pentium III for Slot 1 had an addition to its name. The E indicates a Copermin core, and the B a 133 MHz FSB. Ironically, no consumer-oriented Intel chipset officially supports a FSB of 133 MHz. To use the CPU, one must either use the VIA Apollo Pro 133A chipset, an Intel 800 series chipset, or the Intel 440BX outside of its specifications. See also, Slot A, Slot 2, List of Intel microprocessors, SlotKit. References, CPU sockets chart erols.com. Retrieved March 31, 2009. Pentium Pro, an innovation in cache, experience of Pentium Pro on Slot 1 motherboard usage, list of Intel chipsets, list of VIA chipsets, Intel Corporation, 440FX PCIe datasheet, Intel Corporation, 440 Lucis AGPSET Design Guide, Intel Corporation, 440X AGPSET Design Guide, Intel Corporation, 440BX AGPSET Design Guide. External links, Intel's specifications for the SC242 connectors, Intel's detailed Slot 1 CPU information, including Slot 1 pinout, an image of a motherboard with Slot 1 connector, an image of a Pentium II processor.